limited to 3 person. Visitors may state their comments and should not expect the council to engage in back and forth dialogue regarding the comment. Council may either choose to add it to a follow-up meeting or direct city manager to follow up with the speaker. I will open public comments, and I'm just gonna ask everybody to raise their hands really high because it's really hard to see you guys in the back. Steve.
Good evening, council. I'm Steve Schutte. I'm a resident of John Day. I served as a member of the John Day City Council for 16 years. My last term ended in 20. I didn't run for re-election. The Citizens for a Thriving Grant County PAC, which I'm a member of, has filed a formal grievance with the city of John Day, which the city has not acknowledged receiving. The grievance raises concerns about the city's handling of the wastewater treatment plant project, highlighting issues with transparency, cost, and the decision-making processes. Here are the concerns every resident should be bringing to the city council. Lack of communication, cost concerns, procurement issues, reuse plan concerns, funding uncertainty, and citizen participation and accountability. We urge the city council to address these concerns and ensure transparency, responsible spending, and community involvement throughout the project. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes.
Tim Day, John Day. This last year has been a little difficult and the transition was difficult. And I thought about that and I wanted to say something simple about how we hold this and how we move with this. Asking questions and sharing facts and knowledge is powerful and creative. John Day needs to be a single team working together from one administration to the next. Handing off the baton in a democracy requires cooperation and teamwork with the facts and experiences of each previous administration. Running a country as well as a state and city successfully needs to be a nonpartisan cooperation of all peoples and parties. So please listen to these questions and hear our concerns on these issues. Questions are only questions and they can open doors. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Shannon.
I just wanted to talk about, some statements that were made at the last council meeting. And just talk about, I know that the wastewater treatment plant is on the agenda, but this is just a general statement and addresses some questions that the PAC, which I am also a member of for Citizens for a Thriving Grant County, has regarding costs. In 2019, we were asked, Nick Green was asked to present at the Water Environment Federation Conference in Chicago. 2022 Main Street Now Conference in Richmond, Virginia on our Recreation Economy for Rural Communities Action Plan. Awards that were received based on the work that was done: 2019 Touchstone Energy Cooperatives Creative Placemaking Award, 2019 League of Oregon Cities Award for Excellence, 2021 Western Planner President's Award, and 2022 Oregon Infrastructure and Brownfield Conference Under Construction Award. The goal for our wastewater treatment plant at that time was a state-of-the-art operation that would treat and disinfect wastewater to a level that can be used for farming, industry, and landscaping. This innovation and creativity in a drought-prone area is one of the reasons the city of John Day was able to bring in over $30 million in funding for the wastewater treatment plant and other city projects, with a large chunk of that coming from grants. I'm concerned that consultants from the city addressed the council 2 weeks ago and advised that all we need is a sewer plant that allows users to flush toilets. suggested some broad stroke cost cuts, and the council agreed to it in a session that involved very little information or discussion. This approach slams the door on funding opportunities and takes the project in a completely different direction than initial funding was approved for. Our specific questions regarding costs that we would like to see the council address are as follows. The project cost increased by 15% over the last 18 months to $20 million. Why? The city does not have $15 million of the $20 million in funding needed to complete the project. When will these funds be committed? What happens if the $3 million CDS grant is not received, and how will the shortfall be covered? Since these funds are likely 2 years out, what happens in the meantime? Do we delay construction, and do the costs go up another 15%? The city today does not have enough staff and administration to create and balance the budget. And we have a $20 million capital improvement project that also needs to be taken care of, along with multiple other projects that the city is involved in. That fact regarding administration for the budget is stated by Rob Gaslin in his memo to the council, where he states the city is not properly staffed in the accounting function, is still not properly staffed in the accounting function. How does the city plan to staff these shortfalls? Based on the city's current plan, our monthly rates will be over $100 per month for the way, if we stick with what we're doing for the wastewater treatment plant. They're at $60 a month now. It has been stated that I am harping on this subject. As a resident and business owner that pays taxes and uses city water and sewer, as well as a previous city councilor that participated in this project from day one, I plan to continue to harp on this subject and ask questions until I'm satisfied that every question has been answered and every opportunity has been taken to keep the monthly costs to end users as low as possible through as much grant funding as we can get. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Linda?
Linda Gingrich, I've lived in John Day for a long time. So I'm once again seeking feedback from the council. And this is regarding the reuse water, what would come through the purple pipe. I have just a few questions. I'd like to know why the city's consultant, they spoke 2 weeks ago, say that the water must meet Class A standards, when Class B or Class C is perfectly acceptable for the reuse water, and I would refer you to the DEQ for that. Secondly, I'd like to know regarding the water reuse, which counselor or counselors have been communicating with the golf course and Malheur Lumber? And if none have been, why not? Because there is money there and the city needs money. The third thing, and I don't think that the city's water reuse plan has been made public for review. Why not? Or where is it if it's so available? Because I would like to be able to see it. And just a little final thing that I think sometimes people need reminding of. I'm a taxpayer and I pay a water and sewer bill every month, have for decades and decades here. And anyone lives in John Day and some of the Kansas City people too, because of the sewer deal. We pay the bills. So you're kind of responsible, kind of work for us. And maybe you don't think about that all the time. But we're the ones that should have a big say when things are happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Jim? I'm sorry, Nick, I'll get you the next one. Just,
Jim Spell, John Day. I think I'm speaking for the people who are not sitting in the audience today. Most council meetings full here and people out there in the entryway. And the people here have the benefit of making comments, which is appropriate, and observing and listening to what council is doing. Now, I talked to Melissa today and she felt really good because the system was working well yesterday. It's not really working well today. I think there used to be boxes over here, had people, names on there, phone numbers on there. I don't know who is on there, who is not here, who is participating. But my main concern is they don't have the opportunity if the system doesn't work. So I think I appreciate what Melissa's done and what Don did, because he's been kind of helping a little bit on that. I think the council has the responsibility to find a system, find the operator. And my thought also is that Melissa shouldn't be the only operator. There will be times where she may not be here and someone may have to fill in. So we need to keep consistency going so those people not in this building know what's going on. The second point I want to make is we have two loud voices in here, Dave and Eric. And we have a lot of little mediocre voices in here. And that's people like myself who wear hearing aids, and I still cannot hear and understand what a lot of people are saying. There used to be microphones on the table. They're not there. I heard at one time, I think Mayor Rookstu said that the owl, that creature right there, can be modified to make it sound better. That was $250 something. At that time, Rob said the city doesn't have $250 something. So I really encourage council to find a way for everyone in this room and people who are sitting at home or driving down the highway have an opportunity to know what's happening in city council. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Nick?
Council, Nick Green, John Day resident. I'll try to keep my remarks brief, but they are a bit complex. I'm concerned about the procurement strategies that the council's discussing, and I can't speak intelligently to what you're doing because I don't know what you're doing. I can only infer what you're doing based on memos that I'm reading that are published online. So I'd like the council to clarify what your procurement strategy actually is for engineering services, but here are my concerns. You have two sources of funding, both from Business Oregon. That's it. You've got two sources of funding that are actually committed. Both of those contain covenants that you have to comply with. And those covenants state that you and your contractors and sub-grantees will adhere to all applicable state and federal laws for how the funding is spent. So when I read your FY25 congressionally directed spending application, it's in your board packet tonight, and it's online. It states next to the $4.2 million in design costs that Flagline Engineering is doing final design and construction administration. My question to the council, when did you award a $4.2 million contract to an engineering firm to do design of the wastewater treatment plant? When did that happen? Your requirements under your funding agreement also require you to provide notice to Business Oregon 10 days before you solicit for design services. When did you notify Business Oregon 10 days before requesting proposals for engineering services? It also requires you to notify them 10 days before you make an award. When did that happen? The public is completely in the dark about what you're doing. My other concern is that part of those state regulations is that you have to comply with ORS 279C.335 if you intend to direct award a contract. That state statute requires publication in a trade journal of statewide circulation 14 days at a minimum before you hold a public hearing to adopt findings in support of the direct award. And those findings specifically have to identify how your direct award will not prohibit competition and will result in a substantial cost savings to the city. When did you hold a public hearing before you made a direct award for engineering services? When did you adopt findings before you did that? Or did you state in a federal application for funding something that is not true? These are our concerns. You have a covenant to comply with the law. From my perspective, looking at what you're doing, you haven't met that covenant, which means the only source of funding we have is now at risk. So I would like the council to address those comments. If your intent is to go out for competitive bid, I think that's fantastic. If your intent is to direct award, also great, as long as you follow the process. But when you state in an application that you've already predetermined the outcome of those bids before you've even gone through the process, then you prejudice and jeopardize our funding and that contractor's ability to bid on the funding. Because it's no longer fair and open competition when you tell the whole world you've already decided who your engineer is. I'm sorry if I sound passionate, but I spent a lot of time, 6.5 years, securing those funds. I don't want to see us fumble the ball on the 1 yard line and hand it over to the other team. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
So hi, I'm Leslie Stillwater. I've been living in Grant County for 14 years and I'm a resident of John Day. For 27 years, I was a hydraulic engineer. For 10 years before that, I worked in construction. A hydraulic engineer is a water engineer. I worked on closed conduits, that's pipes, open channels, that's canal systems, hydro power and irrigation. So I thought that I was really well prepared to understand this project and the planning process involved with this project, and maybe even how we're going ahead and getting the funding. But I'm often lost in these meetings. I can't follow what's going on. And I think the reason is that there has not been enough communication from the city council to the public. The water treatment plant project is complex. The planning process is complicated, and there's a history to that a lot of us weren't here for. I'm really urging the city council to start communicating with us. I'm also a member of the PAC. You heard our concerns tonight. Our concerns are about the increases in the cost of the project, the reduced scope of the project, how the city could award a contract to an engineering firm without competitive bidding, the necessity of Class A water when maybe that's not in the regulations, and the fact that potential users for the purple pipe water have not been involved. We're concerned about losing congressional funding and what happens to our rates when we lose congressional funding. So I feel like with my experience, I should be able to understand this project, and I'm struggling. So I think what would really help is if we had a citizen participation plan and an advisory committee. And in the reading that I have done, that reading has indicated that citizen involvement often reduces the cost of projects because it's the citizens that have lived here for a long time and may know the pitfalls before our contracting engineers or planning people who don't live here might. I think as citizens we can identify problems sooner. Also, if the citizens feel that we have a stake in the game, that our comments are being heard, you're going to be working with a more cooperative electorate. Other projects will go easier and faster. There's nothing but benefits with having citizen involvement. So the PAC, Citizens for a Thriving Grant County, would like recognition of the formal grievance that we submitted. We also want the creation of a citizen participation plan and the formation of a citizen advisory committee. So thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes.
I'm Ryan Knapp, resident of Canyon City. Thank you for letting me speak. I have 4 questions about the wastewater treatment plant. I hope you consider return to when that's on the agenda. As a Canyon City resident, we're dependent on the services you provide for our water and septic, and several of your decisions affect us. How will the impact? So rates are a big thing. Our rates have increased, but then I found out yesterday that we've not been. Well, I guess first, our rates have increased, and there's a grant that will help pay for this, but the grant is not a sure thing. If you don't get the grant, like what will rates be with the grant? What will rates be without the grant? And I would like to know that things are solvent for this, and I would like to see like a detailed financial audited statement, and I feel like I used to see those, and it's been several years since I have. I don't know why. So when was the last time? So I found it just yesterday that Canyon City is not being invoiced for water and septic. So we paid everything we've been invoiced for, but we're not being invoiced. So I'm still paying to a slush fund, I guess, that's just sitting there. and not using the money, not taking the money, does that negatively impact the wastewater treatment plant? Does it make it, does it slow down its progress? Does it make it, less likely to happen? Those are my questions, thank you.
Are there any other comments? Yes.
A couple of questions. And,
The state name, please.
Jim Bay, John
Oh.
Day,
Oh, you're up again.
again.
Okay.
Along the lines of what you were just saying, what is the status of Canyon City's payments in the intergovernmental agreement? The citizens of Canyon City are paying their water bill to Canyon City, and Canyon City is not forwarding those funds to John Day, so question about that. Why hasn't the city produced audited financial statements since June of 22? Audited financial statements are required to even apply for a grant.
Okay, if there are no more comments, I'd like to close with public comment. Consent agenda, accounts payable through February 21st. Have you all had a chance to look at that?
Question? Do we have anyone online that have a comment?
I'm sorry, Jim. Is there anyone online that needs to make a comment? Hearing none, I'm moving on.
Well, you can raise their hand.
You have something?
No.
Oh, okay.
Hold on.
Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
We did that.
No, we approved the, agenda, not the consent agenda.
Okay. I can make that motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, Ron makes the motion,
A second.
Eric seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay. Presentation by Clark Disposal.
Name's Farrell Clark, represent and own the local garbage company Clark's Disposal. Thank you for getting us on the agenda tonight. We're just here to announce that we are gonna make the transition to automated side loader collection style of trash pickup. We've all probably seen in bigger towns where the truck has an arm that reaches out the side and grabs can and dumps it. Just have a quick open floor discussion on questions. The rates will not change. Your can size is gonna be based off of what you have now. That we're gonna offer 3 different sizes, a 35 gallon, a 64 gallon, and a 95 gallon. We're trying to alleviate picking up trash off the ground, the dump runs. And we're getting a little older in age. We're gonna take advantage of some of the new technology that takes some off of our back and our shoulders. So, we'd like to begin can placement as soon as the middle of March. Other than that, there's a few guidelines we need to, there will be some growing pains on can placement. Other than that. Any questions, comments?
In your presentation, you said that certain areas may not be accessible. What are you gonna do about those areas that are not accessible?
What we'll have to do is either figure out, I mean, these carts do have wheels on them. Most of the driveways,
You're okay?
we're okay.
Okay.
We've already implemented this in Canyon City, Prairie City, Dayville and rural. John Day was kind of last because it's the biggest. We're gonna begin with Riverside next Tuesday. That's gonna be a challenge. Other than that, we got 1,000 roll cards we need to put together and pass out. But we're excited. It should have been done 10 years ago. So in the future, I think there's words from the Department of Environmental Quality of curbside recycling being implemented and enforced. If we don't, adhere to this, we're not gonna be ready with that. If and when that comes. So. At this time, there will be no rate increases, we just ask that we be patient. Some of these cans have been in the same spot for close to 50 years. So. Any comments, questions?
I presume you're sending out letters or?
We can, we've sent out newsletters in Prairie City. We didn't get a whole lot of reception, when we put the cans out, there'll be a notice on the top, kind of what we're doing. We're gonna try to pass out roll carts on the day of collection. So if your collection day falls on Monday, that's probably the day you're gonna get your card.
And the carts are free?
Yep.
Okay. And could the public help if their driveway is narrow? Could they roll it out so they could make it easier for you guys, or?
What we will probably do, if it's not in the right spot, we may paint a little X that first time. We're still gonna have a person on the truck, just moving carts around. We also have some labels that we put, kind of helping the customer know, but majority, everybody's good now. I mean, there'll be a few, but.
That's very cool.
And how much longer is your franchise in place?
Our franchise is in place, I think, another 8 years in John Day.
Thank you. Good luck with your transition.
All right, thank you.
Approval of the contract with Rhythm Law Enforcement Consulting for full audit and inventory of the City of John Day's former police department evidence room. Melissa.
Thank you. Council, this is a contract for you to approve that will allow a third party to come in and audit and inventory our police evidence room so that we can then make the transition to move that evidence to the county or destroy, as the case may be. This was suggested by our insurance company, and our insurance company also gave us a $5,000 grant to take care of this issue. So, any questions?
I think it's been a long time coming. It needs to be taken care of.
We need a motion on this.
Yeah.
Okay. Has everybody had a chance to read the contract and understand? Oh, okay. Well, it's pretty boilerplate. Do I have a motion to accept the contract?
I move we approve we accept the contract with Rubin Law Enforcement Consulting for the audit of the inventory, and inventory of the, former police department.
Okay, and Melissa, one thing that may have been left out of the explanation is this is being covered by a grant.
If not all of it, most of it. We're not sure how much time he's gonna need or what he's gonna do, but we got a $5,000 grant, so
Okay,
we're pretty sure it'll cover most of it.
I understand that.
So you're saying that we may be on the hook for more than $5,000? Possible?
It's possible, we're hoping not.
Would you accept amendment to your
Well,
motion and saying no more than 5,000?
No, because it has to be addressed.
It has to be done, and he was, this is what our insurance is telling us we need to do, and they're giving us $5,000 to help with that. We are not expecting, I've talked to the gentleman, and he's not expecting it to go over that. So,
Yeah, our evidence room isn't that big,
I noticed that.
and some of the stuff's already been
taken out by state police and stuff for cases that were ongoing.
We need a second before you discuss.
Yeah, do I have a second on the motion?
I'll second.
Okay, now, discussion. Dave, do you have anything else?
Good.
Yeah.
No, it
Anybody else?
just needs to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, all those in favor?
I,
Unanimous. Moving on. There we go. Nick, are you online?
Yes.
Yep, sure am. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
So it's not too big of an update. It's really just to answer any council questions about the congressional request that we put in last week. Pretty lengthy process that it has to go through. I think I tried to lay it out pretty as simply as possible.
There seem to be some concerns about this. Are we in compliance with everything?
Everything is a bit of a bit of a broad question.
Well.
But to
we don't
speak
lose
to
our
some of
breath.
the concerns, I've discussed extensively with USDA and Business Oregon our procurement strategy. We've been on calls with the city attorney back last fall, and the city attorney is once again going through everything with a fine-tooth comb regarding the final design engineering. They haven't reached any conclusions yet. After reviewing everything, they described the previous administration having a rather convoluted contracting history. So they're trying to figure that out. And they said they would try to get us an answer on that sometime soon. The funding agencies have been along for the ride on all this. They know what we're doing. They know the plan with the procurement of the engineering. As far as the funding strategy for the project, it is really not significantly different than it was before. Under the previous administration, the plan was to cover the balance with a USDA loan with an unknown amount of grant that would really vary. I have recommended that we abandon the previous administration's procurement strategy because it would deny us the ability to get a clean water revolving loan, and because DEQ didn't want to be involved with that type of procurement. So that change opened the city up to an additional possible $2 million of grant and a loan at a better rate than USDA had. We're submitting CDS this year instead of last year because the chaos at the city and a lot of city staff leaving had left the senator's aides with a feeling of not feeling too comfortable with where the city was headed and what was going on, and they wanted to see things stabilize. Things have now stabilized. We have a great city manager in there, so they were happy to entertain that request this year. So that will be going forward. If the CDS is unsuccessful, then the project will either have to be pared down further, or you'll have to use loans or additional grants to cover that funding gap, which has always been the plan.
Yes, Chris?
Nick, this is Chris. Are we going to be spending any money before we get these grants? Possible.
Well, we're spending money now, but the money we're
Even though
spending
we
now
don't
is
have it?
grant funded.
Even though we don't have it?
Well, we have grants. We have $4.5 million of grants and loans that are paying for example, my grant administration, some of Flagline's technical assistance that they're providing right now, that we have an open contract with them for that, for CWM H2O's groundwater and surface water monitoring. So there's a lot of tasks that are ongoing that are being paid for with grant funds that are open, and everything we are doing has been presented to those funding agencies to make sure they are okay with it.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Nick.
Yep.
Oh, yes, sir.
I just, for clarification, I heard twice that the funding agencies know what our procurement strategy is. I'd like a member of the council to explain to us what it is.
Dave? You're the most knowledgeable on this, so that's, no.
I'm as lost as he is. I mean, well, see, the problem is that that's never really been the council's role. Okay?
Mhm.
And it's always been the city manager's role to take care of those issues and to advise the council on them. Get council's permission with a plan or a direction or whatever. And since we've not had a city manager for a year and a half, a lot of that stuff hasn't been done, hasn't been taken care of. Now we have a new city manager. Don't know that she's had time to accomplish all of the things that need to be accomplished, although some of this stuff needs to be prioritized and, you know, probably moved up on the scale of, you know, what's a priority and what's not a priority. And it sounds to me like some of these concerns, you know, need to be higher on the priority. So as far as being able to give the public an answer, I can't give the public an answer. We haven't been basically in the loop. Because we haven't had a city manager.
Well, I think, yes,
I'm Leslie Stillwater.
Yeah.
I don't think that should all fall on the city manager. I think that's too large of a project for the city manager to take on. I think there needs to be citizens involved. I think we need to have a team effort. I think you need to allow us to help you because there are some very smart and experienced people in your constituency. And that's a huge undertaking for a city manager. There's history here. And that's it. Thank you.
okay. Melissa, do you have anything to add to this? Cause I know you've been working with Nick and.
It is a priority. We do have staff, you know, you have a staff that's working on, so you have a city manager, you have a grant writer, project manager, you have a financial person. We have updates that we give you. You've had a town hall, you've had these meetings where people come and relay their concerns. You've had, you know, I guess my experience with these projects are once it's designed, it's there and you're going for it. Every project, big project, and I told you I've done, you know, there was a $40 million one. They all take the same kind of route. You're looking for grant funding continually through the whole entire process. You're trying to get your lowest loans possible because you don't want to subsidize off the backs of your consumers. You know, again, I'll say it again, I think within the next 2 months, you'll probably have a contract or an RFP to go out for a rate study. I think that's important because I think it is important transparency. The public needs to know what they're going to be paying at the end of this. And obviously there's grants that could come in and there's, you know, changes in construction and that kind of thing. Your project will automatically grow. It does. There's not a single project out there that usually doesn't grow because of construction costs or the way it goes. We are looking into the procurement issue. It's valid. We're looking into it. So as soon as we have an answer, you will have your answer. I don't think there's anything stalling about this project. It's moving along. I don't think there's anything concerning about the project. So, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Jim?
Follow up to what Nick was saying, Ducati there. He said he's going to change from the procurement process that was in place for the previous administration, but he never said why.
Nick, you want to address that?
Yeah, so we talked about it pretty extensively last fall. There's a big memo that I put together that explains the previous strategy was to procure a final design engineer and a general contractor at the same time through a progressive design build strategy. So we talked pretty extensively about how if we abandoned that approach and we used a more typical design bid build approach, how it would open us up to additional funding from DEQ Clean Water Revolving Fund. We also talked with the city attorney, who said it was a very complicated process that would involve a lot of legal and administrative costs. It was going to take 3 to 5 months for USDA to review whatever we provided and write their own rules on how to manage this, the previous procurement strategy. So not only did it open us up to an additional $2 million grant that's potential and possible, it's not been committed to the city yet, but it allows that possibility. It also saved the city time, administrative costs, and legal costs. So council was informed of that. It was discussed, I want to say in November or December. All of the councilors were sent an email discussing this in pretty good detail. The only person who I really had discussions with back then was Heather, who's no longer around. So that's part of the loss of institutional knowledge when people go in and out.
Thank you, Chris.
I was approached by a group called Grant County Conservatives. I guess they're not here tonight, or they're not willing to speak up about Purple Pipe. They'd like to have what's going on. They would just like to have transparency. I think we owe that to people.
I think we discussed that quite thoroughly in the
Well, it
last
sounds like
meeting.
they don't, I don't know who wrote it because they don't ever sign their name, but I think it's important that we let their voice be heard too. And all they want is information. That's all they want. I don't have a
Yeah, I
problem.
thought we discussed it pretty well last meeting, but Nick, if you wanna.
I'm just saying what I'm reading right
I'm not
now.
sure what the update would be. You know, we are working on that part of the project. I did meet with Rich from the mill this week. He was very, for lack of a better term, confident that there was no previous deal that he was not comfortable without knowing a cost. I felt the same way, and so they're still very interested. The pipe still has a place to go. We're still working on that project. That's a grant. We have to figure out if the mill can take what class water the mill can take, how that would look, if our plant can put out the same, and then what the testing responsibilities are gonna be, because you have to remember that this water also has to be tested, so you have a staff that also has to do more work on that end, more testing, and so all that factors into costs. And so the project's moving forward. It's there. It's just, we're working out the details. It was a grant.
Nick, this is Chris again. Is the Purple Pipe project fully funded with grant dollars?
Yes and no. The project ended up being more expensive than the whole project was going to be more expensive than we had grant dollars for. So, you know, we talked again last fall about some changes that were going to be made to the project to save money, so that we didn't have to use, for example, a loan to subsidize the Purple Pipe. So the plan was always to only use grant funds for the Purple Pipe, but the whole project was going to be about $1 million more than we had grant funds for, especially to go east. So that whole eastern portion was cut out. And I will add that just as far as the the cost of the treatment plant project, that figure is for Class B, not for Class A. That's going to add some cost to the project. And that's also the cost that, without the demolition of the plant and with some of the changes we discussed at last council meeting. So without taking those things out of the project, you're talking about an even more expensive treatment plant project.
Okay.
I guess my only other comment is I am for Citizens Advisory Committee. We have used those committees on numerous large projects since I've been on council. The planning, the public input, the public comment, the ideas, the knowledge, the whole 9 yards, and it's always been beneficial. So, personally, I feel that it's beneficial and it has benefited us in the past. So I would like to see some kind of a committee organized that can meet and, be informed and go through this stuff and have input. Canyon City residents, John Day residents, just a variety of people with different technical backgrounds, knowledge, experience. It's valuable. That's my opinion, so.
Is there anybody else that has anything to add to this?
Yeah, Nick, this is Eric. Wasn't there some language and I remember reading, but in all the stuff I've read, there was some language about part of the plan was to have a citizen advisory committee at some point in the process. And can you refresh my memory on that, on what that was and where that fell in the process?
It mostly had to do with the negotiation of the rates with Canyon City and just, making sure that Canyon City felt involved in the process. I think I've said to council before, it's kind of a toss up to me. I don't really have a horse in the race. I feel like on this project, more than any other projects that I've worked on in 8 years, we have given a ton of information to the public. I've never done this much public outreach on a project. I don't really have capacity for a whole additional committee, but would be happy to provide a conduit for that information for whatever the city council would like to do.
Yes, Shannon.
Shanna Adair, just a brief comment on that. Giving information to citizens is very important, and I agree with that. I think part of the reason that people are lost is sometimes the projects updates aren't given on the entire project together as a whole. It's separated out with, we're gonna talk about the wastewater treatment plant, and then one time we're gonna talk about the purple pipe, and we're gonna talk about solar, but it's not presented in just a full project, with everything, when the updates are given, kind of updates on everything. So yes, that is important, but a community advisory committee is back and forth communication, is getting input from your community, and that's what we're really asking for. And I would think that the Grant County Conservatives would also want that as well, and would want people, a very diverse group on that advisory committee. As Leslie stated, there are a lot of people in this community that could help with this project. And right now, we've turned it over to consultants. As Nick Ducati just said, he doesn't have a horse in the race. He's our consultant, which is fantastic. But I think that it's important that the community be involved and be able to have back and forth discussions and give, have some input. So that's different than just getting information out to the community. Thank you.
To be clear, my horse in the race comment is about the Citizen Advisory Committee, not the sewer plant. I've been involved in this project for 5 years and care about it quite a bit myself.
I didn't mean to say that he didn't care. I just, community versus consultant.
Judy.
Judy Schutte, John Day.
I'd just like to make one point tonight that I haven't heard mentioned at all, I think, maybe only once. But I have felt for quite some time, and it's not only me, it's my household and people that I know that have been very involved in this project for many years. I don't feel one bit confident that you folks, I'd like to be more blunt, but I won't, could care less about the innovative vision of this project, which was a huge part in the beginning, and it still should be a part, but because of non-support, because of politics, because of personnel changes, that has been lost. And I would really love it if every one of you, and especially the city manager, would go back to those meetings at the very beginning and look at what this could, should, and would do for the citizens of John Day and Canyon City and for our community. This was a very, and should be, a very innovative project. It's not pie in the sky. It's not impossible. It needed the right person to see it through from start to finish, to garner the funding. We have that. We did. We don't now, and you all have seemed to just let that go by the wayside. The purple pipe is fantasy. That's stupid. Nobody needs it. You are wrong if you think that. Reclaimed water, the uses for it, what it could do. Mr. Laphart stated he thought it was useless to have a visitor center for a sewer plant. Well, when you put it like that, possibly. But technical business people that would come from all over the state, and I would wager all over the country, to see this finished, successful project working, would do nothing but good things for John Day. So please go back to that early vision. Look at what the plan was, why it was formulated, and get on board with supporting to see that piece of it through, please.
Jim, and then we're gonna,
There's just a real short comment. I just made an observation that Chris stated that the Grant County Conservatives reached out to him and say they wanted more information about the purple pipe. Now, they are a kind of mysterious group, but I know Bob Pereira, he's not here tonight, but.
I'm not a member of him.
You're not a member?
Better watch your mouth.
Oh, sorry about that. But
I am a contributing editor to the site.
there you go. But what I'm hearing, for the Grant County Conservatives, they have a right to ask questions and learn just like we do.
Mhm.
And I heard that brushed away. And maybe council thinks that there's been enough information, but they apparently think they have questions, and that should be honored. I won't say any more. Thank you.
Heather,
I have listened to you guys being beat up all night. Not only tonight, other nights also. And I'm sick and tired of it. I know that you're working hard, and we have a group of people that want to see it happen like it was when they were in charge. And, you know, we need a sewer system. We don't need an extravagant sewer system. Why has this taken so long? Because it's extravagant. You know, that's one thing. You know, I am just tired of some of this stuff that goes on. You know, people talking behind me during the meeting, people going up to you during the meeting last week or 2 weeks ago, going to the editor or the reporter and interrupting the meeting that way. This kind of stuff has to stop. You know, I want to let you guys know that I appreciate what you're doing. I do not appreciate the things that have gone on behind the scenes that have tried to disrupt your actions. You know, I appreciate what Heather Rookstool tried to do. I'm very sad that There was a group of people that pushed her out. I'm just tired of seeing some of that happening here. And I know that you guys are working forward with everything. And I want to say that I appreciate that.
Thank you, Heather. I think that the bottom line here is that we need to get this plant moving forward. It's taken a long time to even get to this point, and I don't want to see anything slow it down further. And if that means that Nick has to keep pushing through on what he's doing, and Melissa has to work with him and go forward with these grants, whatever we have to do to make this work, that's our main goal, is we want a sewage treatment plant. We need a sewage treatment plant. So whatever your feelings are, I sympathize, I empathize, but we need to move forward. We just can't keep stalling and putting stop gates at it. Okay, so let's move on. Unless there's further discussion by the council, can we move forward? Okay, all right. Next agenda item. Rob, you're up. Maybe you can clarify some things for us.
What would you like clarified? So, put together a little report for you guys, it's in your packet. Just kind of reminding everyone, yes, the county function is not properly staffed, that's a true statement. We're doing what we can, priorities were established to get employees paid and get vendors paid. And so, yes, some of these statements about bills not going out are absolutely true. Canyon City has actually been billed now. I don't know if they've received it, but it's been set out in the middle, at this juncture. Most of our other entities that we get recurring payments from, such as, UCECA, which actually resides in this building, have been continuing to pay, rent to us. It's really just Canyon City that hasn't paid, anything to us at this juncture. Okay, so there's that. There was another comment I can address if you want about audits. Are you guys good? You know where we're at on that? RFP's gone out. I've actually contacted personally people that I know in the industry because I am a municipal auditor. And I have received at least one response, actually 2 responses now that said, yes, we will submit. So I haven't seen the proposal, but I'm in contact with them saying, hey, we really need your help here. And I work with both of them as the accountants in the entities that they audit. So I'm crossing my fingers that they follow through on that, but I have gotten affirmative on them. So that's where that sits, and we're not that late. Actually, if you, we're two months late on our audit as of right now. By the time it's finished, it'll probably realistically be 4 to 6 months late. But the Secretary of State Audits Division Head, Amy Dale, Amy John now, she's aware of the situation. We will undoubtedly approve our request for an extension once we actually get an auditor signed on. So we have no concerns there. There are entities far worse off. If you want to go to the Secretary of State's website, it's all public information. It says delinquent filers. It's a 7-page list of entities in Oregon that are not compliant right now. So just want to let everybody know where we're at on that. Yes, it is a requirement. Yes, we will get there. But the reason you haven't had an audit is because I was your auditor and now I cannot audit because I'm doing it. Okay, all right, so this is the budget document. It's multiple pages. You guys have a lot going on in terms of how the funds are structured. You have a general fund, which has multiple departments. You have a water fund that has multiple departments and so on. So that's why you have so many pages. I tried to just make a quick summary to point out where we're overexpended at this juncture, and there's really only a couple line items there. So we can start on page 1, right here. And the over expenditure line item, it's not surprising given the situation that we've been in, is that materials and services administration general fund is over by $36,000. Well, what goes in there? Well, you got some of my time in there. You got legal fees in there. And then anything else that is not a hired employee doing it for your city. So there's that.
Rob?
Yeah. No, please interrupt. That's
Okay,
okay.
quick
I'd
question.
rather have dialogue.
Administrations, we're over 23%.
Correct.
And you said that's, how much was that lawyer?
I don't have a number in front of me.
Would it be quite a bit?
It is quite a bit. Yes. There was a lot of leverage placed on using, those legal services during the last, well, since the year started, July 1st.
Because we were paying, what, our former city manager, $80,000 plus fringe benefits. We weren't paying that from that point on. When we lost that person.
Great, and you can actually see that if you look at Personnel Services Administration, just above that negative 36,000 you're pointing out.
Yeah.
We're 59,000 under on that personnel services, which is mostly gonna be your city manager. There's also gonna be some secretary and accounting work, which will also low on, compared to what the budget expectation would have been.
Do you see the legal counsel going down with the hiring of a city manager?
Wish I could say yes, but we are in the position where the staff has formed a union. And so we will be forming a collective bargaining document, which will be the first time ever. So there is a labor attorney involved, rightly so. So you are gonna have more labor and legal fees. That's just one. I mean, we have a lot of contract. I mean, I'll go in my update, but there's a lot of things we're going to be working on that are going to use a lawyer and for contracts. And so I do see it leveling out. It's just, you're gonna have a real hard hit at the beginning, probably the first year of my employment, because we have a lot of contracts we gotta catch up. For instance, the fire district has not had a new contract since 2013. Our MOU we're operating under has not been updated since then. It's not in place, so we have a new lease with 911 that has not been updated. There's just things that are gonna have to take place that are gonna be worked on. Sorry.
Okay, I'll keep rolling here, but no, please, I do want to be responsive to council's questions. Sure, this is the first time we presented an expenditure budget in a long time, so just want to throw that out there. So I'm gonna skip on past that page, and then, so I mean, as we're looking at this is showing you the total budget for the year and also current year actual to this point, which is through the end of January. So year to date, so we're looking for something a little less than 50% remaining, something along the lines of 40% remaining. And so when you look at water, personnel services, you've only got 14% remaining in that. And so how that's budgeted, budgets, plans based on history. And so we say, well, this is historically how much we've charged to water. But when we actually record those costs, we take the time cards and how much time has actually been charged to water. So there's nothing exciting here, other than the fact that more time has been charged to water than it was budgeted for at this juncture. So that's another area of concern that we'll have to keep an eye on. It's just the water personnel services budget. And reality is, just because of the material and service administration budget, we're going to have to, as soon as we get the budget committee together as part of a regular annual budget process, we're gonna need to do a supplemental budget, which has been done many, many times in previous years as well. Budgets are a plan and an expectation. All right, then we're gonna move on to, again, barring any questions. Debt service, you're gonna see there's only 22% remaining in that, but that's because we have large payments due early points in the year. The one that's filling this one was made in December. And then I'm gonna just kind of scroll through here. We don't have any concerns. You can see the sewer actually has 66 remaining in its personnel services on page 3. So, there's the balance. You have the same crew working both water and sewer, and so obviously one's getting less charged than the other, just based on reality. And then keep going past joint sewer on the page 5. We have another over expenditure. Street fund is $20,000 over expended in materials and services at this point. I actually don't have a solid reason on why the budget was where it was at on that. All the expenditures looked solid, so I don't know exactly what was over on that one, but we just need to draw your attention to that because we will have to do a supplemental budget for that one as well. And then that's really all I have to point out in the budget. I mean, if you guys had any questions, I could hopefully respond to some of those. And then I did include just a schedule of debt. That was always the question I was asked as the auditor. And so I'm trying to put together a financial presentation for you. You know, you got your budget actuals. But I wanted to respond to that question before I got asked. As of June 30th, 2022, these were the balances. And then just the associated minimum annual payment, just to keep everybody, nothing exciting.
Any other questions?
So this is, what we're seeing is expenditure, not the revenue side.
Yeah, revenues aren't ready for prime time. Back to that prioritization, pretty comfortable with the expenditures I've given you. I'm not gonna tell you they're absolutely perfect. There may be some readjustment on where we classify things as we continue to work through them. Revenues just aren't ready for prime time. We're collecting cash, but we're not keeping up on entering it in the computer. Back to the staffing situation of not having enough accounting staff.
Right.
Rob, I'd like to see the unpaid comp fund. There have been past years that sucked.
Yeah, yeah, there's probably some transfer that need to get made in there, to be real, but we're still working through some of this.
Good.
I know you've had your hands full with this, and thank you for.
It's fine. This is what happens with cities transition. It's okay.
Any other questions for Rob? Anybody online have any questions for Rob? Okay. Thank you, Rob. Okay. Discussion regarding cancellation of the March 12th meeting. Unless there is something absolutely catastrophic that we need to address for the March 12th meeting. I would like to either cancel that meeting or schedule it for that Thursday, if at all possible.
Is there a reason?
Yes. I'm not going to be here.
We can appoint a pro tem for that one meeting.
I would rather just move the meeting if at all possible.
Well, what if some of us have things already scheduled for that date?
Yeah. I don't have much scheduled for that unless there's something you're adding.
Okay, that's what I want to find
We,
out.
we had talked and knew this, that's why it's on the agenda. I think at the last meeting in March, you'll have, items for agenda, but there's no issue with staff canceling.
I'm good with canceling it if there's nothing pressing that he's.
Like I say, if something pressing comes up, and we can have a meeting on another day. Yes, Shannon.
Has the council seen the grievance letter that the citizens presented about the wastewater treatment
Yes,
plant?
we have, and it's not on the agenda, so we won't be discussing it.
No, I know, I understand, but what I'm asking is that important enough to be addressed at that meeting on March 12th?
At this point, no.
I don't
This
think,
council does not feel that that's important to respond to your community.
We don't need to be answering questions about that,
No.
in my opinion.
Is it okay with, Chris, are you okay with that?
I don't have a problem.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah, I mean, do you need a consensus or a motion?
But I don't want it on Thursday because I've got things going on.
Okay,
I'm
well, give
I'm
us
actually
another
with you,
day.
Chris. I
I'm-
prefer
I'm-
not to move it to Thursday.
Yeah,
because
okay,
those are
it doesn't
bad.
have to be Thursday, it can be
Okay.
Wednesday. I
Well,
don't
we can
care.
just cancel.
Yeah.
If-
So do you
yeah.
need a motion or is it a consensus?
It's consensus.
Just consensus, I
Okay.
think.
I'm okay with it.
You're okay with that? Everything okay with that? Okay, all right. City manager comments.
I know I've had my time
Yeah,
to speak. I appreciate that.
yeah,
But you made the statement, there's nothing really crucial or pressing. And all the questions we asked tonight, I would consider very crucial and very pressing to be answered.
and they will be
When,
at the next meeting, when we have the next meeting. If we can answer them, we will. I mean, if there are answers for you, we will try to get them to you by the next meeting. Okay, Melissa?
Okay, so last meeting, I kind of talked a little bit internally about what I was working on in-house, so I just wanted to give you an update on the other side of it, my staff in Public Works, to give you an idea. So on February 11th, the telemetry system failed and residents on Ferguson had no water, so our staff went out there and corrected the issue. It was a phase fail. And got it all set and corrected, and so took care of that. On February 18th, the emergency generator at the treatment plant was running for no reason. They found a trip breaker, fixed that. Monday, the 19th, the sewage pump number 1 completely self-destructed. It broke a drive shaft and damaged the motor, so both those are being sent out to be fixed. But they got it up. I don't know what they do, actually, to tell the truth. The guys have just been amazing this week. On Monday, the contractor, I think for ODOT, broke a 6-inch sewer main on Canyon and Southwest Fourth. Our guys went out there and quickly got it fixed, and so corrected that problem. Casey found that well number 5, which was drilled in 2002, had never been certified. Found the paperwork, so in a couple weeks, he'll have that completed and we'll get it certified, and that'll be, all our wells will be certified at that point, so. In addition, in-house, Sarah they collect data when they go read your meters on a machine. She has to download it, that's what produces your bills and your amounts. That machine malfunctioned this week, which is part of why we didn't get minutes done as she was working on that. She was on the phone with the manufacturer and also IT trying to figure out what was wrong with it. It took her 2 days. We were told by the manufacturer to baby that thing because it's so old, they don't make it, nor do they produce parts for it. And so when budget time comes around, these are the things that we will all be looking at to keep us going. And so just to give you a little heads up, I really do appreciate our employees. I think they're working hard and they are actually just doing fabulous work out there in the field for you guys. So that's my thing.
I got a second that I talked to Dawn about that sewer pump going out, and that had to be a terrible thing to get in there and fix that.
Yeah, and they did it. It was a holiday, so I appreciate that. One last thing, public service announcement. When you come to these meetings, I know parking is tight, but we do have residents and people that live around here, and make sure you're not parking in their driveways or blocking their driveways. We had a resident that had a grandbaby visiting her last meeting, and somebody parked there and they weren't able to leave until after 10. And so just be cognizant of where you are in your surroundings and where people live and their access. So that's all.
Thank you, Melissa. Do any of the counselors have any comments? No.
I just got a question.
Yes.
Rest area sign, update?
We are, Casey and I went out there and we looked at it and we walked the area, and we are, well, it got moved down on the priority list, I'll just be honest. But there are, some signs that we can do. But it's money and we will work on that, but, we want to make sure we get the best fit, the best sign for the area and in the right spot.
Tourist season's coming up. This was
Yeah.
approved by this council months ago. Sherry even brought it up. Why hasn't it been put up yet?
Well,
And-
yeah,
I have been in Melissa's office several times and, seen her whiteboard. And
Seen it
know
too.
that
It's
there
growing.
are a lot
Yep.
more priorities on there than, I mean, some things are just gonna have to be held off for a little while. We're doing the best we can. She's
I'd like to
doing the
see a
best we
really,
can.
I'd like to see a really nice sign there. We did have, to, Nick's credit, there's some signs that we should be using. There is a template there is signage, it's well done, it's the right stuff to do, the right signage. It's just a matter of placement, where we're gonna do it, and how it gets done. And so, we wanna make sure we do things right, and we wanna make sure we do it, we don't just throw something up there to throw something up there, so.
And right now, the whole sidewalk in front of the pit stop is
You can't
torn
put
up.
it there.
Yeah.
There's
So-
in the- Yeah, so.
Some,
Another project that we approved and is not getting done and getting done. So
I can go throw something up, but I'm.
it's not throwing up, just drill a hole and put the post up, attach a sign to it.
Okay, anything else? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
You don't have to.
What?
No further business.
No further business. Do I have, all in favor of adjourn?